this the name of our show?
Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Welcome to Large Glass. I'm Todd.
And I'm Terry.
Hi, Ben. I see some people out there in the chat room already.
I see Splunk 16.
Yeah. So we got clobbered by a mountain of snow. I'm sure the rest of you did too. Hey, Pumpkin Audrey. Nice to see you. And we are still kind of recovering from that. So,
yeah.
I know we're both a little bit sore from shoveling and doing all of that. There's Dave. Hi. Good to see you. And,
hi,
hi, Mom.
Here. Good.
So, we have a jam-packed show with stuff tonight, and I have to say, I got to admit, I'm a little bit intimidated tonight.
I'm actually a little overwhelmed because we have this mind-blowing artist that we selected, plus we have two mind-blowing artists, and one is actually joining us, so
and
he'll be on the show.
But on top of that, I've added, I'm constantly, and you guys know about this, that if you've stuck with the show for a while, you know that I'm always tweaking things and trying to make things a little bit better. And I've gotten to a point where I feel like I need a real, genuine production engineer to be sitting over there and running all of this stuff, because I'm not only trying to talk to you about what we want to present, but I'm also trying to run all of this equipment. Mm-hmm. And so it's like, it's a fair bit. And I'm not trying to make an excuse for myself. I will say that I occasionally ask my 11-year-old son to help me technologically wise so that I can get this stuff done.
Yeah.
I'm making myself seem really old.
No, but he's very smart. So
he's good.
He's beyond.
He's good. He's fantastic. He's really helped me out a lot. And so if you see things on here that you're, especially tonight when we have we're gonna have a Discord call calling in on video while we're doing some overhead cam, and it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
What are we drinking?
Oh, so we actually broke out of our laziness and we coordinated our beverages with the one artist that we selected tonight.
Yes.
So we've got stuff from California
because
that's where this artist hails from.
This is where our main artist hails from.
Yes.
We have some other people we're going to be talking about tonight.
Correct.
There's Amanda Toolin. She says, Happy Large Glass Tuesday.
Yay!
Good to see you, Amanda.
And it's our 21st episode.
Episode 21.
Wow.
The reason, while I pour this, the reason Terry always pre-games, that's why this has wine in it already.
Yeah,
I don't. And she's drinking Cloisonne Sauvignon Blanc from California.
2019.
But the reason we call the show The Large Glass, for those of you that are new to the show, is twofold. One, we are giving a little homage, a little shout out to Marcel Duchamp. And I have many personal reasons for doing that, as he's always been a real influence for me. And also our geographic location here in New Jersey, rural Hunterdon County, New Jersey, not Turnpike, Newark Airport, New Jersey. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Happens to have a direct connection to Marcel Duchamp in this area. This is the very almost town where he met his wife, Teenie. And Henry Matisse used to live out in this area, and so they met through Henry Matisse. And so we love Duchamp, and we named it that. Also, we always have a very large glass of wine or some other beverage that maybe accompanies the artists that we are showing. And so we try to pair those things. And so tonight, I will be drinking a Cabernet from California called The Stag.
He's going Stag.
I'm going Stag. And as we always do, I'm going to do a little fun ASMR with the wine for you. So here we go. As you guys are used to, I'm going to try and aim that fluting right towards the mic. I hope that was worth it. Okay. So we got a little Stag. We got a little Cloisonne. We've got a jam-packed schedule.
We do.
So here's to tonight's show.
Here's to tonight's
Cheers.
show, number 21.
Yes. Cheers. Let us know what you're drinking in the chat if you're joining us.
Oh, hey, and, Carolyn. Carolyn's here.
Hi, Carolyn. Nice to see you. One of our long-term subscribers.
Yes.
And our supporters.
Oh, Memory Vessel's here. Awesome.
Oh, wow. All right.
She says
We're
it's
filling
worth
up.
It. Yeah, that's good.
This is nice.
All
okay.
right.
Good. So let's see. What do we have? Where are we starting tonight?
We have so much.
We do. Hashtag roulette.
Hashtag roulette. You have a little bit of an agenda written there on the side that I'm just
Always.
sneaking a peek at. So did you want to kind of go in order?
Of course.
Of course.
If we don't go in order, I'm going to get
arranged.
confused. So hashtag roulette is something that Terry and I started one Saturday night when we were bored. We started streaming a second show where we kind of incorporate a bit of our process for this show. So we spend a lot of time scrolling through Instagram, looking for artists, following artists, and then going down those rabbit holes that you all know so well. We decided to turn this into a show where we have a roulette style wheel that's loaded with different hashtags, and we spin the wheel, we load the hashtag into Instagram, and we begin looking, and we find some amazing people. So what we do is we take a few of those people from Instagram and we follow them, and then we mention them on the show, so that maybe if you want to go out there, and it's just a kind of a way to spread a little love and get people to follow other people, and it's good. And so we usually throw a picture or two up of those people.
Yeah.
So I'm going to jump over there really quickly. Oh, look at that. I'm already on my overhead cam, which is totally wrong. See? Hang on a minute. Let me just fix that.
Well, I will say on Saturday, the show generally runs about 2 hours. So, and typically that's how long I spend scrolling on Instagram anyway. But we hit a couple of categories. I think we hit 11 different categories, and we found out of the 11 categories about 10 good artists, 3 which we narrowed down to our favorites.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, these 3 that we're going to put up here. Also, we did find an artist that we really liked who does fantastic sketchbooks. And every once in a while, one of our large glass episodes we call Sketchbook Spin. And we throw in 3 artists that make fantastic sketchbooks, and we talk about their process, right?
Yep, so we're going to save him for later.
Yeah, we got one that we're definitely going to hang on to. And so this is Murillo Comer. We really liked his work. He's very diverse, very organic, does some amazing abstract work, as well as, a lot of this stuff is really ephemeral and has a bit of a botanical kind of nature to it, a little bit of an organic nature. And then he gets into these really heavy black architectural forms.
He does very solid forms.
Yeah.
And to me, they were so symmetrical that they reminded me of Rorschach.
Yeah.
Because there was such a profound inkblot feel to them.
Absolutely. So Murillo Comer's really a cool one, and he's got a really great Instagram feed. Look through there, a diverse body of work that we really enjoyed looking at. Let's see. We also, oh my God, this guy.
This guy is worth mentioning. This is Fabrice Manel. And we found him under the taxidermy or the oddities hashtag.
Either oddities or
I think it was
taxidermy.
oddity.
Yeah.
But in any event, what he does is he juxtaposes taxidermy. He usually manipulates them. In this case, he dyed.
Literally paint dyed
of
rats.
Rats. He really works with rats mostly.
It's very strange. It's very strange work.
Yeah.
But check him out. He's all over the map. He's really odd and whimsical.
He does create the little whatever he puts on there. Like in this case, it's a little house. I think he uses plasticine or some kind of clay. But in a couple of cases he used Legos. So he does all these interesting prosthetic pieces with them, and he makes them himself. He's very interesting.
Yeah, so definitely try him out. And then one more, we've got Maria K. Moyer, another diverse practitioner, but she's got a lot of ceramics in her feed and some really, really great work. And so we liked her as well. So go and check her out. Okay, so we need to move on to some art news.
Okay.
I think. I got to get Maria's name off of there, don't I?
There we go. Yeah. So we're going to head into SUP.
SUP? You want to do some SUP?
SUP.
All right. Yeah. So in SUP this week, we did our hashtag roulette. We're going to talk a little bit about some art news really quickly. And, I think that there is maybe 2 pieces of art news that stick out mostly for me this week. So,
I think so too.
I'm going to get you started with those right off the... Whoops, that's not what we want. Here we go.
Ooh,
I'm screwing that up.
That's okay. No, we're fine.
All right. So
this isn't really art news. What it really is what's going on today. So it's Groundhog Day, and that's actually the inspiration for our show today, because we were thinking of the use of light and dark in artwork, we're mostly focusing on light because we're trying to be optimistic. The groundhog every year, tradition, he comes out. If he sees a shadow, we've got 6 more weeks of winter. If he doesn't, and that's what we're hoping for, which is the light, a spring is around the corner. So here we have Punxsutawney Phil. We actually woke up this morning to watch it. It was very adorable. It was social distancing. Everybody was in masks. They didn't have a big crowd. But Punxsutawney Phil saw his shadow, the little bugger. So he's predicting 6 more weeks of winter. Irregardless, spring is always around March 20th, 21st, somewhere around there. So it doesn't really matter. The next groundhog, whom I like even more, is Staten Island Chuck. Yeah, 6 more weeks. That's what Punxsutawney Phil is saying. And Punxsutawney Phil has been around for 134 years. So this has been a tradition. Might I also add, he's only been correct about 39% of the time, somewhere around there. Very low reliability score.
Punxsutawney Phil is 39%?
Somewhere around
So
that.
he's
He's
about-
in the 30s.
He's like a weatherman.
He's like a weatherman.
Gotcha.
So that's how that rolls. But Staten Island Chuck, he's been around since the 1980s. He's only got it wrong 1 year. So I go with Staten Island Chuck, and he didn't see his shadow this year, so he's predicting an early spring. However, when you look at this picture, and this one's from today, and it was all over the news, New York Post and everything like that, everybody's like, didn't you guys get like a big snowstorm? Where's all the snow? They pre-recorded it several days ago. So
Oh my God.
the prediction that they're saying isn't actually from today, which is Groundhog Day. So big controversy in Groundhog world.
I had no idea.
Just thought I'd share.
That's
So-
fantastic.
And Staten Island Chuck, he's always got some controversy. Back in 2014.
I gotta say, and I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on Groundhog Day, but you know, the Punxsutawney Phil today, it was cloudy, it was snowing. How did he see a shadow?
Yeah. Well, they had all those spotlights
I don't
on it.
buy
It was a
this.
bunch of baloney.
I
But
don't
you know,
buy
back
this.
in 2014, Mayor de Blasio dropped Staten Island Chuck, who is actually Charlotte, and she died. So
Oh my God.
there's all kinds of stuff with Staten Island Chuck. So let's just move
All
on.
right, so drama with the groundhogs.
Drama with the groundhogs.
I love that. I love that. All right, so let's talk a little bit about this next thing because Jerry Saltz totally stepped in it, and I kind of think this is funny. So last week, Jerry Saltz decided to tweet out something brilliant, and I've got to pull up the quote here so I can read it directly to you. I know it's on your screen right now, but Jerry Saltz, in true Jerry Saltz style, decided to say a good critic always puts more into writing about artwork than the artist puts into making it. The artist only creates. The critic must plumb that creation and also write creatively enough to deliver the full volume of the art while also creating a thing of beauty and clarity itself. Oh no. Well, guess what? He realized after tweeting that out that that was a mistake, but he thought, oh, you know what? I'm going to leave this tweet up just in the name of transparency. And guess what happened? It went viral. He page sixed it in the post. And then, of course, he apologized. And so he said, let's see, let me find the main. He said, on Monday, I messed up on Twitter bigly. Okay. I like that reference. About an hour later, I realized it and said so. Apologized. Decided not to delete the original tweet. For transparency's sake, too late. The thing went around the world. I trended on Twitter and got frog marched around the digital globe. Rightfully, I blew it. There was even a column on the page 6 in the New York Post and blah, 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 blah. So he apologizes. Okay. So
Plus, he kept that post up, which I really admire. He wasn't hiding it. He's like, I screwed up.
well,
You know,
I mean, yeah, of course.
yeah.
But, you know, I remember when I read that post when it hit the
Yeah.
first time. And I was just like, what the hell is this guy talking about?
Yeah, maybe he was just having a bad day.
Memory Vessel's like, when they're...
When there are 2+ feet on the ground, how can you say springtime?
Oh, yeah.
True.
Yeah. Well, anyway, so Jerry Saltz totally blows it and, you know, apologizes. I don't know how you feel about that. I kind of know how I feel, but we'll leave it at that. So let's see. We've got to do, what do we got to do here? We got to do some birthdays, right?
Oh, birthdays. Yeah.
So let's move on to that. And whoops, that's not what we're supposed to do. We're going here. I told you this technology is going to kill me. Here we go.
Ooh.
Let's go there.
There we go.
You doing birthdays?
I am.
All right, fire away.
So this is Thomas Cole. His birthday was actually yesterday, on the 1st of February. He was born in 1801. He was known for his American landscapes, a little bit wild and unruly and beautiful. He's also one of the founders of the Hudson River School. So happy birthday, Thomas Cole.
Happy birthday, Tommy. All right, and next, one more.
Norman Rockwell.
Hey.
His birthday is tomorrow on February 3rd. He was born in 1894, very famously illustrated for the Saturday Evening Post, painted all kinds of pictures depicting American life in the best possible way.
Well,
in the best possible light.
Oh, I see what you did there.
You see that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Amanda Tulin says, it is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, because there's no effort without error and short... Wow. That's beautiful. I hate username 67. Jaron is also 34% right. So that's beautiful.
That's good.
That is beautiful.
Yeah.
Nice. All right. So Jerry Saltz and Punxsutawney Phil are on the same curve. I like that.
It's a Roosevelt quote.
I like that.
Interesting.
Oh, beautiful. Very nice. I really like that.
Yeah, I like that too.
All right. So Norman Rockwell and Thomas Cole today. Excellent.
Very American artists.
Yeah, for sure. All right, let's see. A couple of last things before we jump into a couple of our bigger events tonight.
Okay.
Right. Number one, if you'd like to know how you can support us and our show, there are several ways. One, tell your friends. Tell your friends to come watch our show and follow us on Twitch. We are exploring ways of multi-streaming this channel out on different platforms, but that's still a little ways off and very technologically weird. So we're working on that, but tell your friends to come and watch us. Number one. Two, there are donation buttons on the About page just below where you're watching right now. That's another way. You can subscribe to our channel. That's a third way. And so, there's all kinds of ways. Another way that's interesting is if you're an artist and you want to support us in a way that maybe is non-traditional and you have a drawing or something that you want to donate to the show that we can give away, we will set subscriber goals so that we can give away your piece when we hit that number. And every week until we hit that number, we will show that work. We'll throw it up there on the screen and we'll be like, hey, here is our, hold on, I'm realizing I've got too many things going on here. And I've got the wrong text on the screen because these buttons are great. Anyway, you can talk to us about possibly donating a piece that we will give away. We've done it in the past. It's been very successful and we have enjoyed it. So our current giveaway, which is for a 15 subscriber count, we are currently at 8, is one of my cabinet cards. So if, a little self-promotion, fine. If we get to 15 subscribers, we will be giving away my cabinet card. This one is a woman in a rose-colored vitrine. It's a smaller cabinet card, but I will sign it and ship it out to you. We do a little drawing on the day that we hit 15 subs. So think about that. It could be fun, and we look forward to getting to that point. All right. Now, shall we do something fun?
Yes.
All right. Let's do something fun.
All right.
All right. So first of all, we had an argument on the show last week. Do you remember? Everybody remembers. So the argument was this. We told everybody that the Mike Rader piece that we bought, and we had talked about Mike Rader's show Prosthesis was closing and that you should go see it at the Brownstone Art Gallery online. And we had mentioned that their piece came, and Terry, would you like to continue the story? Because I know you're going to throw me under the bus in the best possible way.
So the piece that came is the trading cards, which are modeled after the Topps trading cards. And as soon as they arrived, Todd shoved them in a case so that I could not look at them, touch them, nothing. They're locked away. So I was a little upset because there's a box of them and you can't see them. You can't see any of the pieces. They're all individual pieces to me. I want to look at them and enjoy them and see what they are. And he's like, no, if you open them, they lose value.
Well, Mike Rader also chimed in, and he said that if they're not opened, they're not art. And in a weird way, I couldn't argue with him right there.
Yeah, that's true.
Sorry about that. I realized at that point that if they're not seen, then we, as the viewer, have not completed that piece, as Duchamp had said in the creative act, an essay that he wrote. So we decided that we were going to unbox these on the show. We were going to open them up. And proof that we have not unboxed them yet is here they are, and they are still sealed. They still have these stickers. And this camera that we're on right now is not going to focus well on these, but we have another camera that we're going to go to. But that was one of the reasons I didn't want to open them, is because of the stickers. I was like, I'm not peeling those. Those stickers are part of the art. I won't peel them off. But
now, after having talked to him too, because it's hard to tell, what's in here. And that there's all kinds of fantastic surprises. Like, do you remember opening these cards when you were a kid?
The Topps cards, or any collectible card.
Anything.
Any collectible card.
And there was always like a little treat in there. There was that stick of gum.
There was gum.
That was hard as a rock.
Yes, but it was fantastic.
But you loved it.
Yeah.
And you enjoyed that while you were looking at your cards. And actually talking to Mike, which, should I blow that surprise? There is a surprise in here.
There's a couple of surprises.
Which makes me want to open it even more.
Well,
so I'm really excited. There's a couple of surprises. Now I'm like trying to look at them on the side and see what else is in there. So wow, what a fantastic idea.
And in true storyteller fashion, I mean, we're kind of building, right? We're kind of doing a little building here, because it's like, we don't want to just throw them open and throw them out on the table. And stale gum, El Boto. Yes,
I love the stale gum.
It was so good.
It was
somehow
so rewarding. It was satisfying.
But then there was the other thing, was the cards sort of absorbed the smell of that gum, right? And so there was a time, like you'd go into your collection of either baseball cards or, Mike and I were talking about this before, like Star Wars cards or Planet of the Apes cards, or
I had said Garbage Pail Kids,
or
because that's what I collected.
Right.
Those were really fun.
And those were cool too.
Yeah.
You'd go into your collection and it had that smell about it, right? There was that smell of those cards, or the gum in the cards. All right, so let's switch over. And first of all, we've got a couple of things we got to do here. So number one, I want to, first of all, we're going to go to an overhead camera, and that is going to reveal, number one, that we've got a wine key on the table. Number two, this is a little far away, but don't worry. We're actually going to be able to see them pretty well, because we're going to hold them up for you right up to the camera as we open them. We are also going to get, right now, I'm going to try and get Mike Rader in with us so that we can see him. And it's going to take a couple of seconds, but we're actually going to be able to see and hear him as well. He's going to join us for this unboxing. It's just going to take him a few seconds to get there. So, do you want to start peeling? Why don't you pick one? Do you want box A?
So, well, here's
the
thing. Like, I'm looking at these, and then, you can kind of see them here. So we got the blue set here, and you can see right there, it's like a mask. If you've seen his prosthesis show, it's mostly about the prosthetic masks and
don't worry about us.
Similarities to Mr. Potato Head. And there were little pieces that you could wear in different ways. So it looks like here, these are like the pieces that you cut out, and you can tie strings in and all kinds of stuff. So that's that. On the side, I'm looking, it looks like there's something pink in there, like almost like a stick of gum. But then I looked at the back too. So they've got these stickers on them. And on this back, not a whole lot to see. On this back, you can see it looks just like the Topps trading cards. Let me flip that around for you. So, and it's got like a cool little factoid. So this one looks more compelling to me, just because I see that little teaser right away. But I'll hold that down and we'll go with this one because it doesn't have that little teaser. So let's open that one. Mike thinks that's a good idea. Give us a thumbs up.
Mike's giving us a thumbs up, and I got to go to a little headphone action here just so I can hear Mike on the show, because I don't want to have any feedback. Mike, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. That's awesome.
Yay.
All right, cool.
Hello, Large Glass. Thanks for having me on. This is fun.
And we're honored to have you on the show as well, because, first of all, we're a little nervous because now we have to like sort of talk about your work while we open it up, and that's like a little nerve-wracking. But now, one thing I want to mention before we go
I can take it.
I don't know. If I trip over my own tongue, you're allowed to laugh. If one thing I want to mention about this piece is when you purchase this as a piece of art, it also comes with a limited edition print. And I did not mention that before, but I want to pop that up on the screen because you get to choose between 2 prints that also accompany this. And here are the 2. We chose the one on the right, the one with the stick of gum that's actually physically attached right to, it's a sculpture, it's not an actual stick of gum. But we chose the one on the right, but you get to choose which one you like. And then you also get both packs of cards, which we have on the table. So I didn't want to leave this part out of this. But anyway, here we have it. Am I accurate in that, Mike? Was I okay?
Dead on.
Oh, good.
Right on.
Good. All right, so Terry, I'm going to since you have been the one who has been dying to do this,
Jonesing.
I'm going to give you the honors. Can I just ask a favor? Can I just ask one favor?
I know what you're going to ask. You can't open them with gloves.
All right.
How am I going to get the tape off?
Take the tape off, but then I want you to wear these, okay? Because I'm a pain.
So we'll go with this one first.
Let's see. I'm gonna you do this, and I'm gonna go on the.
The other problem is I'm gonna wreck the sticker.
Whoa! Hold on a minute. Sculptore1 just subscribed tier 1 for 6 months in advance.
Oh,
Sculptore, thank you. That's awesome. Thank you so much. That is so cool. That's a huge honor.
I'm gonna wreck the stickers. I guess that's the trade-off. Mike, I'm gonna wreck your sticker.
Go for it.
Mike's like, come on, open the things.
I'm trying.
Now, we did not bring any tools because there's no way we're using a knife on that box.
Opener.
No, I'm not scratching that box,
Doesn't it have a
girl.
little razor on it?
Come on, you got those nails. You're going to do it. Come on, you got it. There you go. You got it. That's one. Now, wait. Let me just take that from you when you get it over.
Relax.
That's good.
Relax.
All right, that's good. Can I have that?
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay. Now we're going to go for the other one. Ooh,
it's slow.
Suspense. Maybe I should hold it.
Oh, you
up
got
so
this
you
one.
can
You got this one really nicely. That's great. That's great.
There
Mike's
we
laughing. All right.
All right.
Come on,
so
man. This is a big deal.
Tricky part. Oh, I guess I got to put the gloves on, right?
Heck yeah, you got to put the gloves on,
Okay.
girl. Put those on.
All right.
If I treated my Star Wars cards like this,
There
they
you
would be
go.
worth so much money.
You might actually be able to, go on a nice vacation or something.
All right.
Yeah, my poor Star Wars cards. Oh, they got brutalized. Here we go.
Here we go. The only thing is it's going to be hard to take them off.
Go
wow,
for
these
it.
are
Just
cool.
actually want you to
Can I
turn
dump
it.
them?
Yeah, turn it upside down. Okay, in the bottom. This is something I really want to talk about, but let's get to that in a minute. Let's start with the cards.
Okay, so we have some cool cards.
And let's
Oh, and we got the little pink.
Oh, we got the stick of gum.
We got the stick of gum.
Can you flip it over? Because there are 2 versions of the stick of gum. This one with the white back is actually a drawing on this. And there's another one that is pink on both sides, which is in fact a sculpture.
Okay. So where can I put this after we touch it?
You're going to put it right here in this box.
Okay. All right. So these are cool. I don't know if you guys can see. I'm going to get
you could get them right up to the camera.
So these are pretty awesome. So we got that. He's got the numbers on them.
It says cut tie string.
Cut tie string. So theoretically, not that you would ever do this to this, but you would cut it out so that you can make your own prosthetic.
Yeah, Ben's asking if we can zoom in.
I'm going to do it the old-fashioned way.
So what I love about these is if you know the work that Mike did for the prosthesis show at the Brownstone Art Gallery, these are reminiscent of the various prosthetic devices that he made. These, and he's done several bodies of work around how he does these portraits of himself that are either masked or he does one with tape where he distorts his face. There's a seriousness to them. There's an absurdity to them. And these also sort of, well, one thing I should say is these were born before the pandemic hit. Am I right on that, Mike?
Correct.
Yes. So they contextually, just based on his thinking, they have a very different take, I would imagine, than they do now for a lot of people, especially when you see all these objects sort of tied to one's face, right? So they're reminiscent of obviously Mr. Potato Head, but now they kind of have this other kind of meaning that they take on. These are fantastic.
These are really rad. I like them.
I kind of feel like, okay, so I wanted to talk a little bit while you're going through there about this piece that's in the bottom that you had mentioned.
I'll just show a couple more. So these are definitely worth purchasing because we have 2 decks here. They're gorgeous. So
in each of these boxes, there is also another print. This is a potato print, a reduction potato print. I believe there are 2 different ones. And so here's what I love about this. When you collect cards, right, and you're going for that full collection, you're going to get that full set. There's always one that eludes you. Or in the case of, modern day collecting things like Pokemon cards, different types of collectible card games, there's an intentional rare. There's an intentional card that's inserted into that pack that is made in a lower production rate and is therefore more valuable. And I feel like Mike slipped in his own rare in here. This one thing that sort of is not as commercially produced or as common as the rest of the pieces in the deck, which I love. What does that say? A plus D, B plus D divided by C equals 53.
That's awesome.
And that's card number 53.
Yeah, that is card number 53, and they're all numbered.
How many are there total, Mike? I don't think Mike can hear me. Are you there, Mike?
I can, yes. Sorry. There's 42 total.
So, Mike, do you want to chime in? Do you want to talk to us a little bit about what you?
Well, some of the backs, because you can't read them. Some of them are art making tips. Some of them are little poems. Some of them are visual poems. Some of them are a bit philosophical, and others are potato recipes.
And we talked. Go ahead. You first. I'm sorry.
No, you go ahead.
I was going to say, we talked about this from the standpoint of when you collected cards, whether it was a baseball card and it had a back sheet that was of stats for that particular season, or if it was a card from, say, a movie like Star Wars, there'd be some kind of narrative or factoid on the back about the person you were holding on that card. This was sort of the impetus for your various elements on the backs of these cards, right?
Right. In fact, the first card that you open is a nutrition stat sheet of a potato.
And oh, really?
Yeah, vitamins and so forth. And then it varies. Sometimes when you got those trading cards, they did have a range of practical information to factoids. And these sort of, I wanted to sort of broaden the front and make the subject matter a little wider spread, so it reflects that in what happens in the back. And sometimes it's just a reaction or reflection to what's on the card in the front as well.
Right. Yeah, which I like. And there's something interesting too about the relationship between collectible cards and collecting art. And trading cards are a funny thing. They have no use whatsoever other than to be possessed, collected, and to create a complete set. And art is sort of like that on some level. And I told you earlier that I had this interesting quote on collecting that I wanted to kind of point out, which I always try and I read a little bit on this show sometimes. But you want to open the other box?
I can. I'm not going to show them all because I realize if everybody sees them all, they might not be enticed to buy them. So we're going to... I don't want to show all your artwork right away. So showed a couple.
I will say this about
open them and quickly spread them out so
the
you
trading
can see.
card.
Hold on. Mike's talking right now. You can't hear him.
I can't hear you, Mike.
No, Mike, she can't hear you.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
I will say about the art of the trading card. It was running a long time, a show at the Met of the trading cards, because the original lithography were really beautiful drawings and really beautiful prints.
Huh.
So it was right, you could walk down the block and see a Monet and then see, Hannes Wagner as you walk by it in the trading cards. So there is a strong connection to the art world in a way.
Yeah, no, that absolutely makes sense for sure. And I'm thinking of them, I think there's probably many layers with which we can think about this. Carolyn says, Terry, what a great comment on that. But, the other thing I was thinking about is in this one essay about collecting, it divides the world into objects that basically take up two categories. There's a category of utilitarianism, things we use, like your dishwasher. And then there's a category of things that we possess. So this basically says the object, pure and simple. I think I'm getting some feedback from something. I'm hearing some noise. But it basically says the object, pure and simple, divested of its function, abstracted from any practical context, takes on a strictly subjective status. Now its destiny is to be collected, whereupon it ceases to be a carpet, a table, a compass, or a knickknack, and instead turns into an object or a piece. Typically, a collector will refer to a lovely piece rather than a lovely carving. Once the object stops being defined by its function, its meaning is entirely up to the subject, which I think is a really kind of cool way of approaching the world of objects, right? And how we sort of look at the world of objects and the collectability of objects and why we collect them. And the fact that they really don't have a function in the world other than to be possessed, because that's what baseball cards kind of were. I can't think of a function for baseball cards other than the fact that we wanted to have them all. Do you think about that at all?
Well, I do think a large function of art is about possession anyway. I mean, what are we doing when we're drawing an object?
Oh, yeah, we're taking another version of it for ourselves.
Right.
Huh. Yeah, so I don't know. I think about these and the way that the cards kind of also emulate that side of the art world. And it's an interesting connection to me that I hadn't really thought of before. So what were you saying about not opening?
Well, we can open this, but then I was thinking if I take too much time to show each individual piece, it takes away from some of the surprises in here for other people who want to purchase them.
Which is an interesting part of buying cards too.
Right, and the discovery is half the fun. So we can open them just to take a quick little peek, but I'm not going to share them with everybody because I want you all to be surprised as well.
Mike, what do you think of that? Are you like, no way, man?
I say you do what you want. They're your cards now.
Oh, what?
He says we can do what we want. They're our cards now. So I don't know.
Go for it.
He says go. He says go for it.
He says go for it.
He says go for it. I think we should go for it.
All right. So we'll go ahead and open this one.
I just want the sticker.
I know you do. I like suspense.
The other thing, Mike, about this is there was something about, in some ways, as you opened up that pack of baseball cards and you were kind of hoping to get that one last player you needed for your team, or some other aspect of the numeric collection. Like Topps used to have a numeric element to the back of the card. There would be like 700 and something cards in a set, and I can remember being like, card 632 I don't have. It would drive me bananas, right? And then when you stop to think about it, we're sort of collecting heroes on some level, like people we really look up to. You collect baseball cards because you love baseball. You look up to these guys, and so you're basically putting a box together of all these heroes. I hate username 67 is saying sports trading cards were a precursor to fantasy team sports, so you could pretend you were team owner, manager, etc. Oh, this is interesting. Especially true.
That's great.
Especially true when the stats were written on the back. Oh yeah, that's kind of interesting. And there's the sculpture gum. We got the sculpture gum in this one.
That's cool.
But I feel like in terms of collecting heroes and then looking at these cards, I feel like we've got all these awesome variations of your portrait in these different, wearing these different pieces.
Clearly they're portraits, but I got to say, when I was thinking about making paintings.
Well, and I think that's there too, right? I mean, and I love the way you fuse those worlds between painting and sculpture and performance, and they all kind of sort of form as one. I mean, these feel like painted portraits.
And I also like that last comment about the trading cards, and it made me think about your comment about possession and collecting. I mean, when I had Planet of the Apes cards, when I had Star Wars cards, it felt like I owned a piece of Star Wars.
Yeah. And I mean, I collected figures and cards in that respect from that collection, and that's really what that was about. I mean, it was a way to play, of course, and sort of reenact scenes, but it also felt like you had a portion of the movie. You had something from that directly.
Right. It is the first art I collected.
These are great. These are really beautiful.
And I also think, along with the first art I collected, Mr. Potato Head was probably the first sculpture I encountered.
Okay.
That's true.
Yeah.
And potato print might have been some of the first printmaking I made, along with Silly Putty.
Oh yeah, remember that when you used to put it on the newspaper and peel it off?
That was fantastic.
Yeah, no, that was a lot of fun. So then really what you're doing here is you're kind of exploring all these firsts and pulling them together into this one, you know, like I like the reference to Mr. Potato Head. I never actually had one.
Oh yeah, it was great. Either. Yeah, you could put the eyes in the ear hole. I mean, it was cubism right off the bat.
Right. It was. Well, my friends always had them, and I always loved playing with them, but for some reason, I never got one.
And it might be close to a first, but it's also it's just something that happened to be in my tool belt all these years that I forgot about.
Scultore says a comment. He's got a comment that says, "Hi, Mike. When you were making this work, were you thinking of Arcimboldo?"
No, but I certainly can see it now that somebody else pointed out to me, and of course, I don't think it's possible to make anything that isn't somehow going to reference art history in a way.
Right.
But that's a great eye. Thank you, Sculptura.
I'm always reluctant when I know these people and their usernames are different than their real names. I'm always reluctant to call them out and say who they are. So you guys might know each other. I don't know.
Oh, I see.
I love this one. Oh my God, I don't have gloves on. These are fantastic, Mike. I really feel honored to have these. I love them.
I'm glad you do. Those prosthetic pieces are on string, and they sort of hang on the wall like their own sculptures and their own paintings themselves.
Right. Here's our potato print in this one. Now, on the reduction potato prints, what was the edition number on those? Is it the same as the number of cards? Like how we didn't even talk about that.
It's 40. Yeah,
40. So there's 40 sets.
There's 40 sets, and on the multiple that you got, the print that you showed at the beginning of the show, those are 15 each.
15 each. So that's even a more limited
I don't
supply.
necessarily like to call it a print as much as a multiple, because it's really just a drawing when you look at it, more than a print.
Right, and one thing I should have pointed out when I put that up on the screen is that there are physical elements glued right to we'll call it, multiple. So a piece of the string that's used in the actual the headgear, the prosthesis, is on there. The physical piece of gum is on there. The physical card is on there. And so you're right, they're not really a print so much as they are more of an assemblage or a drawing.
I would have got my hand slapped for calling that a print in grad school.
Yeah.
These are great.
El Boto says, were those also potato prints? Yes, they were. Like on that edition print that I showed earlier, yeah, there was a potato print on that as well. Oh my God, look at this. I love this last one in the set.
Look at you trying not to touch it.
I'm not going to touch it. I'm not going to touch it.
These are great. These are absolutely.
Oh, that last one, I think I like the way that ends.
Can you put that up there again?
Over.
Mike's asking to see that one again. Yeah, that one's like the full. That one's the full amalgamation. It's all there. It's is that all? At one point, are you wearing all of these?
No. I have a whole box. It really started to inform my painting because I was making these real fast decisions, and I realized I was dawdling more on my painting than I need to be. So it was a real learning process, this different type of painting, I'll call it.
Yeah. Well, we wanted to point out also on a note that's other than the cards, in that we were talking about light and shadow and Groundhog Day and what we're talking about today, that we also really appreciated your Silver Linings piece that's installed in Newark.
Yes, actually. Were we
Oh,
gonna...
thank you very much.
Yeah, and do you want to? I don't have that ready to go actually, but we can pull that. Well, Mike, we want to invite you to kind of be one of the artists that we actually present on this show in a more formal capacity, and so we would be able to talk about that piece as well as some of your other ones down the road. Was that something you'd be willing to do?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Thank you. That's awesome.
I heard that.
Can there be an Italian wine that night?
I think we could do that. All
right, I'm
Italian
in.
wine. Yeah, you tell us what to buy, and that's what we'll all have together on the show.
Fantastic.
Nice. And bonus pack with white gloves. Yeah, there you go. Says do the cards. David Backus is asking Mike, do the cards come with a pair of white gloves?
They should.
It wouldn't be that hard.
Shout out to David. He's the owner and operator of Brownstone Gallery.
Yes, and I was going to actually make that shout out as well. And David was absolutely a pleasure to deal with in picking these up, and was very helpful in the process and makes it very easy. So if you like these, you can actually get in touch with David through I believe you can go through at the Brownstone Art or through the Instagram. Or you could also go on their website, thebrownstoneart.com, and contact them there. Mm-hmm. And correct me in the chat if I'm wrong on that, but I believe I have that right. I just want to make sure.
Art, I think
Thebrownstoneart.com.
Yeah.
Well, Mike, I really appreciate this. This was fantastic.
Yeah,
we really
I think the interaction with the cards is just as important as the actual piece.
It is.
Because they were such a joy to go through, and it brings you back, and you know that's part of it. It's the performance element of the art.
Well, yeah, because you used to go through them, chewing a stick of gum, organizing them into your collection, and that's just
it's like, these are cool.
Yeah, you've got to leaf through these and look at every one of them.
Yeah.
So, all right, man.
You are our treat, and I'm thrilled to be a warm-up act for the genius of James Turrell.
Well,
thank you for having me.
We really had a good time, and thanks for convincing me to open the pack. It was good. I'm glad we did it.
Yeah.
All right.
So, all right,
I'm
Mike.
looking forward to the rest of the show here.
All right, you take care. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you very much.
Take care.
Bye-bye. Okay, that was great.
Okay.
I had a good time with that.
So we could probably go back to full screen.
Yeah, we'll get there. I'm gonna have like 9
and then we
things
gotta box these back up. I know you want these boxed up just as they were.
Yeah,
so
well,
I'm gonna put them over here for now.
My worry is that we're gonna spill a glass of wine on them.
Yeah.
And that's gonna not be good.
No, that's not gonna be good.
So we are already at 10 minutes to 9. Normally we're like, but I had such a good time doing that.
Yeah, that was awesome.
You guys did a good job of convincing me.
We have to do more of that.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. Well, as soon as we can start buying art every week.
Which
is not something we can do.
Yeah.
We'll.
That was cool.
Sculptori says, great work. Thanks for sharing. Such a great show so far. Thank you, David. That's really appreciated. It says, here's a correction, not a correction, but yes, you can, or via email at thebrownstoneart129@gmail.com. So if you're interested in inquiring about those, go ahead and send David an email through that email that's in the chat. Memory Vessel, you just need to buy another pack to save. Well,
he did.
No, I didn't. But I told. So
I think you were kidding around.
I was kidding around.
I can't tell when you're serious or not, because you're like, well, I bought 2 more packs, so. But
I had said to Terry, I was like, don't worry, I'm not worried about opening it anymore. I fixed it. I bought another set.
And I was like,
She just kind of went cold for a second.
Which I think might be a good idea.
Well, yeah. I think it would.
Yeah.
I think it would, but
right.
Well, for now we're gonna do what we're doing.
Yeah.
All right. So should we move on?
Yeah. Let's jump into
who are we talking about
artists.
tonight?
Okay. Well, we usually like to try to think in context of what's happening for the week when we select somebody. So there's a lot going on in February.
I'm getting rid of that. Don't worry.
There's a lot going on in February, but it being Groundhog Day, we were thinking about light and dark. that was really the impetus for all of this. And I stumbled across an article that's a couple years old, and it was talking about some of the best artists that used light in their works. And when you think of art, you usually think of light in terms of two-dimensional. I always think of Caravaggio and chiaroscuro and that big ray of light focusing on something. But tonight we kind of moved away from that a little bit, and we actually have the artist that is light. It's all about light.
Yeah, it is. And, I love your reference to chiaroscuro, actually, and Caravaggio and people like Rembrandt, and this idea of, manipulating light and dark in a way that's sort of, either something emerging from darkness or the trickery of light on creating form. With this guy, who I'm going to put his name up on the screen just so everybody has it. But with this guy, I feel like with James Turrell, he looks at this in a completely different way. Light is not activating something else.
No.
This is really about the light itself.
Yeah, it's not illuminating anything. This is all about the light.
Right. So Turrell, who is, and we've got a fair bit to talk about with Turrell.
Oh my God, he's going to blow your mind.
Buckle your seatbelts, because we're going to be here a little while. So if you
Yeah.
didn't open that second bottle of wine yet, Audrey, you probably should.
Yes.
So James Turrell is a California-based artist who is primarily working with elements of how light almost is palpable on some levels. And you're going to hear that word used a lot when we've got a couple of videos to show you, but you're going to hear this notion of palpability, because light almost becomes physical in these situations. And he's become a master of wielding space so that the light in that space becomes something else. And not only maybe in a formal sense, in that we're kind of looking at it as like a trickery, like, oh, that light looks like a three-dimensional box. Not like that. It's almost as if the light becomes almost questionable or confusing.
Well, it does. He changes the context for which you understand things, and he uses it.
That's beautiful.
Using lights,
right? And
how he got there. When you look at his background and what influenced him to focus so much on light is fascinating. I absolutely love his background story.
Do you want to talk a little bit about his background story?
Sure.
All right. Why don't you do that? Why don't you do some background story for us?
He was born in Los Angeles. Like most artists whom I'm really fond of, they have a roundabout way of getting to where they went. And his major in college was psychology in the beginning. You're pointing?
No, I'm sorry.
Okay. All right. I didn't know if somebody said something.
No. I'm paying attention to the chat. You go ahead. You're on.
Yeah. His parents, his mom was a doctor. She worked in the Peace Corps. His father was an aeronautical engineer and educator. The most influential thing that strikes me is he's religion. He was Quaker, and a certain sect of Quakerism, very conservative. It was Wilburite, and he would go to the meeting houses, which are devoid of any fanciful
embellishment, any symbolism,
right? And there's a bunch of benches that all face each other, but towards the ceiling there's a big skylights that has the sky.
Right. Well, you got to look up and see your maker.
And that was it. It was a transportive process. And he would always ask his grandmother or somebody around. He's like, "What's everybody looking at? What are they trying to focus on?" And the light became this area that deeply affected him. Because of his Quaker background, he didn't go into the service, which is interesting. At 16 years old, he got his pilot's license.
Right.
And what he did was he kind of flew reconnaissance. And with that, being in that altitude and being all the way up in the air and flying, the light changed his perspective as well.
Right. Plus, when you're that high up, there's a different horizon line, which shifts the relationship between sky and land in a really interesting kind of way.
Right.
Okay,
Imagine doing that. Like it's 16 to 18 years old, this kid doing that.
You're going to have an interesting perspective on the world for sure.
Yep. So he had been working in alternative service in Laos, doing the reconnaissance missions. This fostered his interest in meteorologic phenomenon. He went to college. He did not study art in the beginning. He actually studied psychology at Pomona College. And the other thing was, oh, look, the camera's on me now. During his undergrad, he was exposed to some art history lessons, and one artist whom he really was inspired by was Mark Rothko. And the reason why was the energy in the paintings of Rothko. As you know, it kind of plays with your vision a little bit. So he was like, what is this, being so influenced by light? When he first saw Mark Rothko in person, he was disappointed because it didn't have that vibrancy that he saw in that two-dimensional, and Mark Rothko is two-dimensional, but the photograph of the original and the canvas, he was expecting so much more from the canvas, and it didn't deliver.
This is not the sort of thing you typically hear about when someone says they saw Mark Rothko and that they were disappointed.
He was disappointed.
Right.
And that's kind of what threw him onto the course. So he went back to the University of California. He studied studio arts, and then he started working on projection pieces, and that's how he started going.
Well, one thing and this is fascinating stuff, and I love this notion that he started out as a pilot, and how that sort of shifted the way he perceived the world, and the way his sort of, how that would shift your vision. You know, I love how we talk about what our childhood influences were when we're making art and how we got there and what influenced that. One thing I want to point out to everybody that's watching right now in these slides that we've got up on the side is that seeing a James Turrell in person and seeing a James Turrell in an image like this are two completely different things. And you just cannot capture this in a photo. So what's happening in this image that you're seeing on the left is there's a room, usually has some kind of its own light source in it that is, you know, somewhat diffused, somewhat not always chromatic, sometimes just real ambient. And then there is this hole in the ceiling in these Sky Series pieces that he does. Now this hole, imagine a hole in the ceiling of a building. A building in New York City, for example. That hole is going to reveal a lot of the inner structure of the building, inevitably. You've got sheetrock or plaster on the ceiling. You've got some kind of backer board on that. You've got joists that you have to go through. Then you've got roof decking, ages of materials over that roof decking, maybe tar paper. And that's going to have this sort of its own topography. You're not going to be able to get rid of that. In this case, Turrell creates an architecture where the hole in the ceiling reveals none of that. It is a seamless edge. And what this does is it almost inverts the relationship of the ceiling to the sky. And the sky almost actually comes into the room. Rather than it being like a window that you look out into a space, this pulls that into your space. And so he's a master at that sort of push-pull, front-back, distortional kind of play. On top of that, in this particular image, you can see that he also understands a lot about color theory, and so that he's playing with the complementary relationship between the sky blue and then this hue of orange that is projected into this room. Now, when that image wants to come forward, like that sky would want to, that warmer color of the room itself also wants to come forward. And so there's this instant tug of war, push-pull that begins to happen in there. It's really quite fascinating, and you have to really see these in person.
Well, that's one thing he had said. There was a lot of great interviews with him online, and he was actually talking to Charlie Rose. And Charlie Rose was asking him, what do you want people to get out of this the most? And he's like, I want people to understand that this is a total sensory experience. It's sensual. It engages all the senses. He wants to immerse you in a completely different world that is hard to like understand when we're looking at these two-dimensional images. Like, yeah, they look cool and you kind of get an idea, but I think being there and what the light does to all the cones and the rods in your eyes, and you know, sometimes the deprivation of light, he was talking about the dilation of the pupils and how it becomes more of a sensory experience when you manipulate the eyes like that a little bit as well.
Right. Yeah, because you have this ability. So if you think about the eye like the lens of a camera, if you adjust the f-stop in the lens of a camera, you can shift the depth of field. You can change the way in which certain colors relate to each other subtly. You can do that with the eye as well. Mike Rader, he did mention, he says, me too, disappointed at the Rothko Chapel. And Scultore 1 says, good point. I felt the sky was collaged. Oh, that's a really good way to put it. Into the architectural space. Yeah, it's got this stuck-on kind of feeling.
Yeah.
You really no longer feel like you're looking through a hole.
Yeah.
Now, in these pieces, these are interior spaces that create a diffusion of light between two different colors. One is usually, and I'm not necessarily interested in getting into the mechanics of how they're made, but you basically have this kind of light diffusion, and it's so the gradient is so subtle that it's very hard to tell where one ends and one begins, and it also strips the room of its geometry.
It does.
In some weird way.
Yeah, actually, he was talking about a lawsuit with one. Did you hear about that?
No.
I believe it was at the Whitney. And one of the pieces, the lighting shifted so much that the one woman who was viewing the exhibit understood that a wall was there when it was not, and she leaned against it and fell and sued them.
Oh my God.
And he's, so he had said something humorously, but I actually think it was serious. He's like, so I'm not doing those kinds of exhibits in the States anymore. I reserve them for Japan and overseas and stuff like that.
Where he's not going to have a lawsuit filed against him.
But that was like, he does manipulate that sense of space and what's real and what's not real. And he actually... with the sky pieces were really interesting too, because we always perceive the sky as blue, and he said that's all contextual. Yeah, it really depends on what's happening around the sky, and that's what he does in these spaces. He manipulates them with the light, and he changes them, and the sky changes.
Right.
So
yeah, no, it does. And just Mike Rader says, always one of my favorite artists that I often forget about. The trip to the Mass Mocha is worth it for the Turrells alone. Yes. As a matter of fact, at PS1, that was one of my favorite places to kind of wind up, is work my way up to the Turrell piece that's up there, which is, I believe, just completed. Or there was a restoration of that not too long ago, if I'm not mistaken. Also, if I'm not mistaken, there was a high-rise luxury condo that was built not far from PS1 that now winds up sticking up in the space so you can see it through the hole. Fantastic. Amanda Tula says a little bit of sensory deprivation for sure. Well said about stripping away the architecture. I had to reach out my hands to understand the walls around me. Yeah, totally. Yeah. It's such a strange thing.
It is a strange thing.
And it's here's the thing, is there's a way to do this that seems like a trick, and then there's a way to do this that seems less diabolical, if that's the case. In other words, it's not like you walk in there and you're like, all right, how did he do this? You walk in there and you are transformed. Yes. And you're not really thinking necessarily about how it's done. Right. You're experiencing that moment.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
You're just in the moment.
Right. Amanda Tulin, I walked through the Olafur Eliasson blind passenger hall, and it was so disorienting. I haven't been through that one. Huh. I gotta check that one out. But that's a good. I've heard of that piece actually. So there's a couple of these in here that are these interior spaces that kind of sort of play with that geometry, play with your sense of space. And then we said, well, okay, so this is one of the first pieces that, when you start learning about James Turrell, this is one of the first ones that stands out. And it basically, when you walk into the room, it looks like there is this cube of light hovering in the corner. And I think he was early on in his career when he did this, and it did seem a little bit more trick-oriented on some level. And there's another one I have in here that's a pyramid that does a similar thing. And you walk towards it and you feel like you're going to bump into it, and then it's there, it's not there. It's they're really quite good. Yes. Right. Yes. But I think he's really grown since these.
Yeah, I think when you compare it to, the big one, like
we're getting to the big one.
We're getting to the big one. When you compare it to his magnum opus, it's
his magnum opus.
Yeah, it's not. They seem small. It's like, that's nothing.
Well, they are, because James Turrell created the largest piece of art on Earth,
and that is something I definitely want to see. That's a bucket list.
That's that we're going to talk about that. Yeah. We're going to talk about that. So let's just talk a little bit about these.
Is this the one at Rice?
This one is at
I think-
Pomona.
Oh, is this one at Pomona? He did several, I think, of these because he also went to Rice University
Yeah.
and he did an installation here, and the students loved it. The faculty loved it. It's a sky space, and they go in there, and it really is the same thing, sensory experience where the students go in there and they're looking up at the sky, but then it creates an atmospheric change.
Absolutely. And the thing I love about this is where it really, really... Oh, Moped Vagrant, subscribe to Tier 1. Yes. Thank you. That's awesome. We love you guys. Thank you so much. And we're getting close. We're at 10 subscribers, so we're getting close to that 15 goal.
Yes.
We might give away that cabinet car soon. Awesome. Thank you for that. These pavilions are actually... I think he's really starting to capitalize on that notion of the way in which he projects that hue to the underside of the surface to then affect how the sky looks through the hole.
Yeah.
All right, so I've got a couple more here. Here's one where you've got this magenta, and then of course there's the hole with the sky. But here's where the trickery, I don't want to use the word trickery because that sounds cheap.
This is the first one I've seen with the reflective.
That pool is in
pool.
these pavilions,
Okay.
right? But here's the thing. Now, if we're talking about that push-pull struggle between that collaged-on element, as Scultori pointed out earlier, look at around the edge of that square up top. There's now a drop shadow, which adds to the notion that it's forward even more.
That's true, right?
It's really, really quite disorienting.
Yes.
And turns the sky almost into a physical object that wants to be touched in the space.
That's what he was saying, though. He said that he wanted to bring the environment closer to the person, like he was trying to bring it down to them.
Moped Vagrant is now using the emote that he got as a subscriber of me screaming into the microphone. Excellent. So, but check this out. So in this is that same pavilion. We're inside the pavilion now, and there is a rich saturated blue hue projected onto the ceiling. Okay, but then the opening in the ceiling that we're seeing the sky through has a more grayed out, maybe twilight version of the sky showing through it. And so the two blues together really begin to change our relationship to, number one, our expectation of the color of sky, and number two, our expectation of the location of sky, which is so strange.
So strange.
And he's so brilliantly disorients us in this way. Now, here's a series of photos that sort of show the various ways in which the projected hue on the ceiling, the different times of day, all play out inside of this space. Imagine being able to stand in this through an entire day, to visit this for a period of time that was, that sort of allowed the sun to cross the sky. And all of a sudden you have a constantly changing experience, something that becomes like, it's like, we can go to the museum, we can look at sculpture, we can enjoy sculpture, we can stand there, take it in, and have a moment with it, walk around it, see it in all of its angles. But in this case, we could spend a day with it, and it would continue to change throughout the day.
Yes.
And I think really inspire.
Yep.
So I'm talking way too much.
No,
You have to talk.
No, because I was going to say that we haven't even gotten to one of the
big one.
Well, but this fantastic thing about spending the day with it.
That's what I was getting to.
Yes.
Yeah. So this piece. So Turrell decides that in order to really manipulate the sky, you needed as much of the sky as you could possibly get. And so I'm realizing that slide is creeping in behind me like that, and I don't like it, so I'm going to work on fixing that while I talk. So what he does is he decides he wants to find a crater, because a crater and its edge, and the way the edge of the crater interacts with the sky. And the reason he wanted to find this was, of course, he was a pilot.
Yeah.
He was spending a lot of time flying.
Yeah, he also really appreciated the Mayan ruins, pyramids. He liked those structures that reached up to the sky and that were monumental in a way. And he was looking for something that had a similar effect.
Right. Right. So he oh good, I got rid of it. Through his flying, he decides he wants to maybe buy a volcano. And so he starts looking for a piece of land that had a dormant volcano that was, filled in, and he finds this location on a ranch called the Roden Crater. And in order to buy the volcano, he had to buy the ranch. And so, go ahead.
Oh, well, this is in the Painted Desert out in Arizona.
Yeah.
Yep.
So now he's able to sort of begin working on the largest piece he's ever made, and frankly, the largest piece of sculpture on Earth.
He started in 1975.
1975, he bought this and began moving Earth and dealing with the edge of the crater and so on and so forth. He went through, I think this cost him 2 divorces, and I don't even know how much money.
He also had a grant from the Guggenheim to fund, I'm guessing, the majority of this project. I could be wrong about that, but they contributed.
Kanye West gave him $10 million to work on this.
He's still working on it. So this is a 45, almost 46-year-old project. He's got a humorous outlook on it, because he's like, I'm like that guy that never finished his doctorate, or he's still working on his doctoral thesis. So
but the beauty of the size of this is you can go out there now and visit this, right? And you can stay for a period of time. I think it's a weekend, and you can see all there is to see in the various features inside the volcano, because he's tunneled down inside of it, and he's made a series of rooms inside that play with that light, and you can stay there and experience all of these things over the course of a weekend, so you get to see them at the different times of day. I kind of want to back up for a minute, though, because there's this really I have a funny story that I want to tell, because I did meet James Turrell, and I had a really good time with him. And Mike Rader says Guggenheim grant bought probably
new wheels for a bulldozer.
Yeah, that's probably about all they gave him.
Maybe. Yeah.
But still, and I mean, not to knock people giving other, institutions giving people money. It's fine. But this project's scope and money is just like beyond.
Yeah.
So I would love to pop over to a video real quick, because I want to show. So there's an art critic named Robert Hughes who did a series called American Visions, which is really quite good. And he talked to James Turrell early on in this project, and they drive up to the Roden Crater together. I'm going to show you a quick little tidbit about, first of all, he's walking into one of the skyscapes and just talking about that. And then they're going to drive up to the Roden Crater together. We've already seen enough of the skyscapes, so I just move on to the Roden Crater, because since we're there already.
Yeah.
So
I think his sketches are off the hook. So I'm hoping that we see like some of his sketches for it.
Yeah, well, he does have a few of those, and I actually had a few models that I wanted to throw up there, but I figured in the interest of brevity, and this show is going to be really long tonight.
Oh, that's true.
So, and I'm not sure why this is not popping up here right now, but hold on a second. Let me just see what's going on here. We are looking for this, and now we've got to resize. My apologies. Plus, this is a weird aspect ratio. So let's go full screen on this. And then we should have it. All right, why don't you give a listen? Hang on a second. Let me just get this just right. Remember slide carousels? And what a clunky mess they were? I feel like that's what I'm working with right now. All right, give a listen to this.
Crater. Through flight. A lot of how I come about this look at space and light inhabiting it is through flight. I flew the western states to look at a site where I could make a series of spaces that literally did engage the visual world above as you engage it in flight. Generally, I would fly for about 3 or 4 days and sleep under the plane at night. Basically, that was the life I had for about 7 months. I literally was looking for this bowl-shaped space held up in the air.
But then at the end of the 7 months, you came on the Roden Crater, and that was it?
That was it. I liked the color of it. I liked its position. Of course, I wanted to find one that was privately owned and for sale. I mean, in the end, I had to buy a ranch to get a volcano.
Inside this great volcanic hill, Turrell plans tunnels, viewing chambers, and pools acting as lenses of water that will enable the visitor to experience the light of the sun, the moon, and the stars in isolated, concentrated ways. It's an American vision on an epic scale, not just painting the Western landscape, but subtly transforming it.
I've selected the crater, first of all, an environment that is exposed geology. And in this stage set of geologic time, I then wish to make spaces that engage celestial events in light, so as to play the music of the spheres in light, simply.
Very simple, yes.
Well, I must say, in looking at the plans, it doesn't seem so simple, and perhaps it isn't in that respect, but when you greet my work with your perception, it is quite a simple act.
Tell me something, when you got here, was the crater rim like this, or did you have to do a lot of bulldozing?
Oh no, it's been shaped, so it still looks like a volcano, but it's now trued up a bit, as I'd say.
What, you had caterpillars up there sussing off the top, huh?
Yes. Basically, the whole shaping was done so as to shape the sky. It took about 220,000 cubic yards of moving before that began to happen. Okay, well, one of the things I'd like to have you do is to lie down and see the horizon from that position.
Where do we do it?
Right here is a good place,
Okay.
right here. I'll shade you.
All right. Just right back, huh?
Yes.
Wow. Framed in the arc of the rim, you see the sky as a huge blue dome, all-embracing, transparent, but somehow solid, an eyeball.
So I showed that mostly because it shows that was a very early video of the rodent crater. And I also love that video because I had seen that video, I don't know, years and years ago, before I had gone, I think even to college. But when James Turrell, I always thought Robert Hughes was kind of a funny character. I like him, but he's very stodgy. And I loved that James Turrell got Robert Hughes to lay down in the dirt in his khakis and his blue chambray shirt. And I always laughed at that because the filmmaker decided to show the bowl and then show Robert Hughes and then show the bowl and then show Robert Hughes. And the music is very sort of, you know, there's a French horn in the background. It's very triumphant, like, bah, 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 bah. Really. So when I was in graduate school and James Turrell came and talked and I hung around and we all walked out together, I said to him, listen, I loved your talk and I think you're fantastic. I love your work. And I just want to ask you one question. He's like, oh, of course. And I said, how did you get Robert Hughes to lay down in the rodent crater? And he bent over laughing. He thought that was fantastic. And he actually said that was a fun moment for him. He really enjoyed that. So anyway, it was, I have a personal connection to it. So I wanted to, point that out. So
Yeah.
we do have another video that's a little bit longer that I think is
Yeah, and we probably don't have to show the whole thing.
no,
but,
we won't show the whole thing.
I like this. I like the last video for your stories. I just thought it was a little bit dry. So I feel like this one's a little bit perkier. So I love you. Just a little,
My video is dry. Well,
dry.
thanks. Okay, should we go to the other one then?
Yeah, let's go to
Do you want to go to the
one.
other video?
Yeah.
Okay, let me pop over to that. Hopefully less dry video.
Less dry.
And I'm gonna have to find that again because I think what happened is we lost a lot of our. Bear with me. All right, we'll get it going here in a second. This is the way things go. All right, this one.
This one.
All right.
Is it going to start all the way midstream right there on the red, or no? It's going to start in the beginning, or how are we starting this? We don't have to start it all the way from the beginning.
You want to start here?
No, we could start further, whatever you want to do.
Well, he says some good things in the beginning.
He does.
As a child, I wished to touch the light of dreams and bring it before the eyes of day, to build new worlds of light, as powerful as the lucid dream. When I was a child, all the houses had blackout curtains, and I took these curtains and, with a reasonably large needle, created the full map of the sky. It was wonderful to me. I pulled down the curtains and I could see the stars that were there, but you couldn't see. That idea of seeing what's beneath was what was important to me. My family was conservative Quaker or Wilburite, and so I built Quaker meeting houses. The church meets together inside to greet the light, and they downplay the physicality or the decorative qualities of the space. There's no symbolism. They don't believe in art. They feel it's a vanity. I don't know that I believe in art, but I certainly believe in light. The history of art is a history of depicting light. And I had sort of the very American kind of direct way of deciding, let's work with light. So that rather than light being something that reveals, light itself becomes a revelation. We use light to illuminate other things, but I also wanted to emphasize the thingness of light. You don't form it like clay. You don't carve it away like wood or stone. It's more like sound, like dealing with sound. So you make an instrument that produces it the way you want. When the eye has less light, it opens. And it's not until the pupil opens that feeling comes out of the eyes as touch. Then you're really touching with light. That's why I have many spaces you have to go into and you don't see for 10 minutes. But without focus, without image, without object, what are you left with? You can be left with actually seeing your seeing, or really feeling how you go about seeing and how you make this and create this reality that you then live within. Often the eyes will even create form when it's not there. You know, I've even been sued by people who fell to the floor of the museum. In the Whitney show, a woman's testimony was there was this wall, I leaned against it, and it wasn't there. Well, I do think you should stand up to contemporary art. We think the sky is blue. We forget to realize that actually we award it its color. So if I change your circumstance or your context of vision, then I can change the color of the sky. So those qualities of vision are like a melody to me or something. It's very sweet and delicious. I mean, I love that seeing.
This right here.
Yeah.
We're going to pop ahead a little bit to the rodent crater.
My desire is to bring astronomical events and objects down into your personal lived-in space. So in making the music of the spheres played by these objects that are on fire, I want to call attention to them so that out of this sort of chaos, I make them to be the strong things that you experience and feel. think that things are fixed, that we receive the phenomena of the world, and that we're not a part of creating that which we behold. But we are definitely part of creating that which we behold, and this is a kind of a gentle koan to kind of make you realize that. Road and Crater now will be seen as a life's work, even though I had never intended.
All right. So, there's a lot of material to unpack here, and I don't know how much, we can. I mean, the Rodent Crater is just something that, number one, I think everybody should have the opportunity to see. But the problem is that it's so limited in how many people it can handle.
Yeah. Plus, it's not like there's hotels or anything that you can stay at. You're in the middle of a desert.
I think they can accommodate 8 people at a time.
Okay.
8.
Huh.
So, and last I heard, there's a backlog of people waiting to go, like years worth of people. So, we need to sign up for that now.
Okay.
But I think that the one thing he said in that video that I really connected with is this notion of the thingness of light. And because we don't think of light as a thing, we think of light as a property. And when we shift that property into something that's a physical thing, I think now, or I should say, when he does it, we're really looking at something totally unique. Amanda's like exclusive large glass field trip. Yes, Amanda, I agree completely. And I think in 2015 they first started allowing people to take the trip there. And I believe it was $5,500 per person for the weekend. So, whoa. Wow.
Yeah.
And I mean, I was mad when MoMA went to $20.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
But it's like I don't have my glasses on. I can't read the chat. I need to put my glasses on. In Japanese garden, yes. Wait, captured space. Yeah, that's a really beautiful way of looking at it. Exactly. He's sort of. There's a control that he's exercising on something we would never think about controlling. It's like the difference between the French and the English garden on some level, right? It's like this kind of. It's kind of like this. I don't want to think of it in terms of a dominance or a controlling factor, but it is like that, and you're wielding it on some level. So, and I might be messing that reference up a little bit, but I really think that the control factor is an interesting way of thinking about it. So, Turrell's notion of the thingness of light is something that I've always sort of really felt connected to. And the other thing about his work that I love is that I'll see a lot of artists' work and I'll come home, like I'll go see painting and I'll come home and I want to make painting. Or I'll see sculpture and I'll come home and I want to make sculpture because I work across a variety of disciplines. And then, I'll see Turrell's work and I just feel inspired. I don't necessarily feel like there's any one way that drives me other than to just be more connected to the world. Which is,
Well, the thing with Turrell's work to me is that it has a very spiritual basis. And the ability to transport people into another place is the most attractive element to me.
Yeah.
Because I have a feeling that when we do go to see it, like we're going to feel...
I like that you say when.
Yeah. We're going to feel a little bit...
Well, back to Rothko, right? Rothko's paintings were, you hear the word transcendence used a lot. You hear the word sublime used a lot when they're talking about those paintings. And of course, there's a chapel built that hangs those paintings, right?
Well, even the rooms in Turrell sculptures, they look like chapels.
But
they reflect them. They do reflect, harken back to some of the Quaker roots, because that's where he was inspired from. But that's exactly it. There's a certain kind of meditation and solemnity and tranquility, but like elevation. I assume you feel high in that room.
Well, I feel like,
but
I think the point I was going to make is that I feel like Turrell does it better.
Yeah.
Well, I don't want to be judgmental and kind of, create the good and the bad here, but I feel like there's a lot of room for there to be disappointment in the Rothko painting, because I feel like to connect to something transcendental, if that's even possible in painting, which as an artist, I feel like it is possible. Like I feel like I've been moved by artwork to that level before. So I'm not one of those people who naysays this notion of sublimity. But I feel like there is room for that disappointment in a painting if you don't know how or feel connected enough to want to look at painting in that way. Turrell, on the other hand, through the way in which he kind of wields light, makes that more plausible, makes that more believable.
Yeah. Now, we keep talking about going to something like, the painted desert, but there's so many more accessible places because, like, he does have these environments at universities. He's got pieces in the Guggenheim. So they are a little bit more accessible than what we're talking about, other than the Rodin crater.
Right. Of course, you can go. And Mike Rader says, "I feel like I've taken an Ambien after I walk out of a Turrell."
I bet. I would think that you'd feel high a little bit. It's this experience where you're just like, I can remember being in New Mexico, and that's one of my favorite states in the world. I've been there twice. I love going out to the Southwest, Midwest.
Southwest.
Yeah, but just the comparison, you feel high out there. And I know it's the elevation and stuff, but there's also color theory going on. And there's the sky, and there's that blues and oranges and stuff like that. And they're pushing and pulling. And looking at that landscape and the openness, I can imagine, Turrell's not doing, anything like that. But there's probably a feeling similar to that,
because the notion of being high is this notion of having an altered perception of things, like, an elevated perception, depending on whatever high you're seeking.
Yeah.
And by taking your normal day-to-day surroundings that you live in and transporting yourself to another place on Earth that changes that, like the sky out there, right? All of a sudden your perception is elevated. So of course you feel high. That makes total sense to me.
Yeah. Arizona's elevation, I wonder if that has anything to do with it, but that's another.
Well, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I mean, the lack of oxygen probably has something to do with
I'm sure
that.
it's got something to do with that feeling.
But Turrell, of course, makes that, even more, there's that word, palpable.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. I think we got to let these people go.
Yeah.
This
is something you can go on forever. You should check him out. Go look at his stuff. I think he was a great artist to look at in terms of light.
Yep.
And because he is the light. I mean, when you're talking about light and dark and all of that, and you're focusing on that, this is an artist who is light.
And I don't know what James Turrell would do with Punxsutawney Phil, but we'll leave that for another less serious show. Yeah. You can go visit that piece at PS1. Should be done with its restoration. I am curious about the notion of that high rise that was supposed to be interrupting the view. I'm curious what's happened there, so I'd like to get out there and see that. So again, thank you all for all of your generosity and your support, and all of our subscribers, which is just like mind-blowing. I really love that. Thanks to Mike Rader tonight for accompanying us on opening up your fantastic cards. We really enjoyed that. And I hope you dig out of that snow out there at some point.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, we're both a little bit sore. So anyway, we'll see you next week. We have another artist that's really awesome lined up and ready to go. Is next week
Next week is...
What's this?
Valentine's
we're coming up on Valentine's week. Everybody's starting to comment now because they know we're going. Mom says, amazing show tonight. Enjoyed the unboxing of Mr. Rader's cards. Very interesting. Mike Rader says, thanks, Large Glass. Be well. Ben Hagenbush, thanks. Take care, guys. Great show. Carolyn Thau, very interesting show. Really enjoyed another Tuesday night with my two favorite people. Thank you, Carolyn.
Thank you.
And Pumpkin Audrey says, great show. Sculptori, beautiful show. Thank you both. And Mike. Sculptori, thanks for the sub. And Memory Vessel's throwing some heart emotes up there. Thank you so much, you guys. We love you all. Let's give everybody a nice big toast.
Yes.
Cheers to all of you, and we will see you next week on The Large Glass. We will catch you all later. Take care.